Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
Mauritanian parliament convenes amid presidential power vacuum. Taliban resumes peace talks with U.S. as attacks on NATO troops surge in Afghanistan. And a look back at Yasser Arafat's legacy as investigation into his death continues. Mosaic World News from the Middle East begins now. The Mauritanian parliament challenged all the calls for its dissolution and was held today in a normal session amid a state of paralysis that crippled the country for an entire month since the incident when President Mohammed Weld bin Abdelaziz was shot. The president's absence and the lack of information regarding his health raised a storm of rumors in Mauritanian society, causing the opposition to raise the ceiling of their usual demands. Reporting from Nouakchott, Mahmoudi Mohammed.
The
opening of the parliamentary session in Mauritania this time around has a particular essence. In the wake of the absence of President Mohammed Weld bin Abdelaziz, as the opposition and its leaders appeal the legitimacy of this session. The President of the National Assembly is making his way in his car to the session through crowds of dissidents, as everyone there is expecting him to resolve the pieces of the puzzle, even if he was the last one to have spoken to the President by phone in his headquarters in Paris.
أهم شيء بالنسبة لي هو التأكد من أنه حي يرزق.
The most important thing to me is to make sure he is alive and well. His Excellency assured me, saying, "My health is improving," as he also confirmed in the conversation I had with him that he has not suffered from memory loss, thank God.
ولله الحمد يتمتع بذاكرة كاملة.
Opposition members of parliament were not convinced by the narrative that the president is staying in France only for rest and recuperation. They consider the entire process as a clear fabrication to hide his ambiguous health condition and perhaps an assassination attempt that is yet to be revealed.
First, we want the circumstances of the incident to be revealed because neither we nor anyone else is convinced. Second, we want to know his real health condition and who is ruling Mauritania today and with what legitimacy does he do so.
The constitutional vacuum for supporters of Weld bin Abdelaziz is a big lie. Therefore, Parliament's session is legitimate and irreproachable. Protesting Parliament session reflects what the situation in Mauritania has reached after the incident in which President Weld bin Abdelaziz was shot, and the controversy and contradicting stances of the incident, as well as the president's health condition during the past 30 days. Mahmoudi Mohammed, Dubai TV, Nouakchott.
Qatari Prime Minister Hamad bin Jassim Al Thani confirmed that the opposition Syrian National Coalition is a legitimate representative of the Syrian people and the main interlocutor with the Arab League. Russian Prime Minister Sergei Lavrov will visit Riyadh tomorrow as clashes and the shelling continue in several parts of Syria.
During an Arab foreign ministers meeting, the Arab League recognized the Syrian National Coalition as the legitimate representative of the Syrian opposition. Following the meeting, the League issued a statement calling on all opposition factions to join the National Coalition so it can be inclusive of the entire spectrum of the Syrian people without any exceptions. It also urged regional and international organizations to recognize it the way the Arab League has.
We call on the remaining opposition factions to join this national coalition so that it's inclusive of the entire spectrum of the Syrian people without any exception or discrimination. We urge regional and international organizations to recognize it as the legitimate representative of the aspirations of the Syrian people. We will work with the national coalition and the opposition, considering the coalition to be the legitimate and sole representative, just representative, and the main interlocutor with the Arab League. The League is also calling for granting political and financial support to this entity.
The blind cycle of violence is still leading to thousands of victims. It is pushing this important and brotherly Arab nation, which is a founder of the Arab League, toward chaos and disintegration due to the intransigence of the regime that announced a war against those asking for change and reform.
The coalition's president, Ahmed Muad al-Khatib, asked that opposition fighters be supplied with specialized weapons. Meanwhile, French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius said that his country will support the coalition following a meeting with its leaders. He said the Syrian opposition has taken a very important step. The statement comes on the eve of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's meeting in Riyadh with his counterparts from the Gulf Cooperation Council to discuss the struggle in Syria. On the ground, an explosion took place in the city of Al-Raqqa that targeted the convoy of the governor of the city. The governor and his companions were seriously injured. The official Sana news agency reported an explosive device was detonated by a terrorist group near the Church of Our Lady of Annunciation in Raqqa, injuring a woman. The southern districts of Damascus witnessed clashes between groups of opposition fighters and regime forces that are shelling a number of areas in the district, and particularly the Tadamun neighborhood, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The observatory reported regime forces sent military reinforcements to the outskirts of the city of Ras al-Ain in al-Hasaka province. Opposition fighters took over the city last Friday, and it is reportedly being shelled. Several other parts in the countryside of Damascus and Idlib province have also come under artillery shelling as clashes took place in several neighborhoods of Deir ez-Zur between regime forces and opposition fighters.
And on the Syrian front, it was quiet in the Golan Heights today, following Israeli retaliatory fire after Syrian mortars fell on Israeli territory over the past 2 days. More on Syria in this report from IBA's Dennis Zinn.
It was quiet on the Golan Heights today following the cross-border shelling that took place during the past 48 hours. Officers in the Northern Command said they do not expect further flare-up. Nevertheless, the troops remained on high alert just in case. Fighting could be heard over the border in the Syrian town of Barika as the civil war continues. Along Syria's northern border with Turkey, at least one person was killed and several wounded when Syrian fighter jets hit the town of Ras al-Ain, which Syrian government forces lost to the rebels just last week. Plumes of smoke billowed into the sky. Turkish ambulances rushed to the border fence to ferry the wounded to Turkish hospitals. Meanwhile, at a meeting with Arab League ministers in Cairo, European Union Policy Chief Catherine Ashton and UK Foreign Minister William Hague welcomed the formation of the newly formed Syrian opposition coalition. Both leaders urged more opposition factions to join in. They said that the agreement reached after months of mutual suspicion and enmity could boost efforts to secure wide international support in the war to oust President Bashar Assad's regime.
As we meet today, we are especially conscious of the terrible situation in Syria. I want to welcome the work that was done in Doha to build and bring together the opposition groups, to be inclusive of the people of Syria, to be determined in the offer that they make to the people.
Hague said that Britain will recognize the new opposition group as the legitimate representatives of the Syrian people as soon as it is felt that this group is inclusive. The sooner, the better, he added. The International Red Cross organization today announced that some 2.5 million Syrians have been uprooted from their homes due to the war up to now. Dennis Zinn, IBA News.
3 billion shekels. That's how much we taxpayers will spend to bail out the Israel Electric Corporation. The Knesset Finance Committee today approved the Treasury's decision to pay off the gigantic debt run up by the public utility company and will immediately hand over 1 billion shekels, with another 2 billion set to be allocated in 2013. The Treasury says that if it failed to come up with the money, the public would have to have paid much higher prices out of their own pockets for electrical costs. The Finance Committee has conditioned the bailout on the IEC's implementation of a long-awaited reform designed to improve the corporation's efficiency.
Meanwhile, Iran says it will host the Syrian National Dialogue next week. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister for Arabic and African Affairs says the one-day meeting would be held with the main theme of No to Violence, Yes to Democracy. Hossein Amir Abdullahian added that the meeting would be held with the participation of different ethnic, political and governmental representatives of Syria. Syria has been grappling with unrest since last year. Damascus accuses Western countries and some of their regional allies of fueling the violence in the country. Iran has called for the national dialogue to solve the problem. Egypt's ambassador to Beirut says his country supports the Hezbollah resistance movement as an important force to protect Lebanon against Israel's invasions. Ashraf Hamdi made the comments in a meeting with Hassan Izzeddin, Hezbollah's official in charge of the movement's Arabic affairs and relationships. During the talks, the two sides discussed Lebanon and some other regional issues. The Egyptian envoy also called for a national dialogue among Lebanese parties to solve the country's internal issues. For his part, Hezbollah's official described Egypt as a big player in the region, which can have a great role in resolving Lebanon's problems.
Now here in Iran, more high-tech air defense technologies, jets, bombers and drones are put to the test on the second day of the military drills called the Defenders of the Vilayat Skies 4. During the exercises, Iranian air defense systems successfully targeted and brought down mock enemy planes. Press TV's Arash Khalatpari tells us more.
More targets discovered and destroyed on the second day of Defenders of Vilayat Skies 4 drills. More interceptor jet fighters, bombers and drones from the Orange Country, the mock enemy attacks sensitive and vital parts. Advanced low-altitude and medium-range aerial defense systems and artillery chase, track and shoot down mock enemy drones by using different techniques and find enemy planes, then signaling them that the game is over for them. A high-ranking Iranian Air Force military official told us about tactics that make this drill different from previous ones.
We are using airborne scramble techniques. This means the planes are constantly in the state of alert, armed and ready to fly. They can engage with the enemy planes in a blink of an eye. We have practiced this technique many times.
Brigadier General Shahrukh Shahram told us more about tactics practiced on the second day of the drills.
The planes and drones fly close to the buildings. Our aerial defense system on the ground tracks and destroys them. These drones and the aerial defense systems are all made by the Islamic Republic of Iran.
The mock enemy also used complex software tactics, using satellites and televisions to cause revolt in different parts of the region, but the blue team, the team defending the country, successfully neutralized the psychological warfare. Military officials say that the real success achieved in these drills was not one team successfully attacking a target or another team neutralizing it. They say that the biggest success achieved in these drills has been the high degree of coordination between all branches of Iran's armed forces, making the biggest aerial defense drill in Iran's history possible. Arash Khalatpari, Press TV, Birjan in the east of Iran.
The U.S. administration sees its talks with the Taliban militants as an important part of Washington's strategies in Afghanistan. However, many in the war-torn country say the U.S. has resorted to these talks because it's failed in its campaign there. Now the talks between the U.S. and the Taliban are continuing in Qatar, where the militant group has a political office. Faiz Khurshid tells us more.
Secret talks have resumed between the Taliban in U.S. and Qatar. It has been reported by the Afghan government. The Taliban now have a political office in Doha. Several key Taliban men are there talking to U.S. diplomats. And one of the key U.S. allies, Britain, has also put its weight behind the negotiations. These talks were suspended by the Taliban leader Mullah Omar after the U.S. forces burned the copies of the Holy Quran in Bagram Air Base earlier this year. But what has really prompted the U.S. to talk to Taliban? Have they failed in their campaign here in Afghanistan?
Yes, a large number of troops have been killed in Afghanistan, and their strategy is wrong here over the Afghan policy, and what they are trying to do is not right.
Fighting, however, continues on the ground. It has become more violent than ever. The Taliban are stepping up their attacks on foreign troops to have more leverage in the negotiations. The U.S. military is expanding its operations too.
Because when you talk about peace...
But for many here in Kabul, like this Afghan lawmaker, it's a complicated process. Farkhunda Nadri says she's not opposed to talks, but it should be led by Afghans, not Americans.
The people of Afghanistan, they have the right to know about the peace process, and they have to be updated where it's going, towards what way or path it's moving to. But unfortunately, so far, it's not a transparent process.
To Obama's administration, getting the Taliban to hold talks is very crucial. But it's not a new policy at all. The U.S. and President Karzai have been secretly negotiating with this militant group over the past several years. But each time, their talks ended with no major breakthrough. Now all eyes are on the talks in Doha. But it is still not known how long they will take. Experts here say that the Taliban leadership is back with some key conditions: an immediate withdrawal of foreign troops from this country and the release of key Taliban commanders from Bagram jail in Guantanamo Bay have been announced as their preconditions to lay down their weapons. It's widely believed here that their second demand may meet, but not the first one. The U.S. does not want to leave Afghanistan anytime soon. Faiz Khurshid, Press TV, Kabul.
وفي الشأن الأفغاني قال قائد كبير في شبكة حقان التي تعتبر.
Speaking about Afghanistan, a top-ranking commander at the Haqqani network, considered the most dangerous insurgent faction in Afghanistan, said the network will take part in peace talks with the United States, but only under the direction of its Afghan Taliban leaders. On the ground, at least 4 rockets were fired today in the Afghan capital, killing 1 person and injuring 3 others. The rockets fell in the northeastern part of Kabul, near a private television station and an office used by the Afghan intelligence service. The renewed rocket attacks are a reminder of the security challenges the country faces, as most NATO forces are getting ready to leave by the end of 2014.
Not far from Afghanistan, 2 people were killed and 9 others were injured after a bomb planted on a bicycle exploded in Baluchistan province. The bomb targeted Pakistani security forces. Rescue teams rushed to the scene to begin their operations, while security forces cordoned off the area and started an investigation to catch the culprits.
The scene of destroyed cars is by now familiar, as some Pakistani cities have recently been witnessing explosions. The latest was a bomb blast that occurred Tuesday morning in the southwestern city of Quetta, killing at least 2 people and injuring dozens, including 3 Pakistani security personnel. The bomb was placed on a bicycle and detonated from a distance as police were patrolling a main road in Quetta, the capital of the turbulent Baluchistan province. The bomb seemingly targeted a vehicle belonging to these forces. The blast also led to the destruction of a number of stores and houses in the area. According to media reports, the blast was followed by gunfire. No party has claimed responsibility for the blast. The oil and gas-rich Baluchistan province that is surrounded by Iran and Afghanistan is frequently subjected to armed attacks by insurgents that reside in the province. The province also faces sectarian violence and attacks launched by the extremist Taliban movement.
The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees warned today of a growing humanitarian emergency in Western Burma, calling on neighboring countries to open their borders to the Rohingya Muslim minority fleeing the sectarian violence directed against them. Meanwhile, Burmese opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi embarked on a visit to India today, her first in 4 decades. Burmese citizens gathered outside the New Delhi airport to welcome her. Burma is dealing with sectarian tension between Buddhists and Muslims that has led to the killing of 180 Rohingya Muslims in Rakhine State since July. It has also led to the displacement of 110,000 others.
The situation in the Gaza Strip is still prone to further escalation in the wake of Israeli threats that resistance factions are taking seriously. Meanwhile, the factions took surprising action during the latest clashes as they met to agree on a unified position to confront possible Israeli scenarios.
There were Israeli strikes, despite talks of a truce. These strikes mainly targeted training facilities of the Palestinian resistance. And with that, Israel seems to be disturbing the calm to accomplish a specific goal. Palestinian resistance factions had something to say about this Israeli policy.
As long as the aggression continues, we will continue to protect our people. We will not blink. A return of calm is tied to Israel stopping its aggression on our Palestinian people.
This time, the resistance factions adopted a unanimous position, demonstrating a development credited to the Palestinian resistance's understanding of its circumstances and its accuracy in addressing probable Israeli scenarios.
We confirm the importance of forming a single resistance front and unifying the efforts of all the forces and unifying plans to resist the Israeli aggression that can happen at any moment.
Amid the surprising actions of the resistance on the ground, Israel's choices are no longer as easy as they were in the past. This is what led Israel to seek an international umbrella for an attack that can rebuild its deterring capability without engaging in a major war.
For the rights of our people.
Our people have the right to defend their land and carry out an appropriate response to stop these attacks. This is not only our right, it's our duty.
These threats are to be taken seriously in Gaza. And the expectations of the government and the factions in Gaza were made clear in the series of security procedures they adopted.
Israel will focus on assassinations, on limited incursions here and there, on shelling some installations, on shelling some rocket launching pads or hiding places.
In most cases, calm between the two sides is fickle. But today, it could disappear if Israel takes a harsh stance on Gaza, the repercussions of which will surely extend beyond the Strip's geographical borders. Wael al-Dahdouah, Al Jazeera, Gaza, Palestine.
In the city of Ramallah in the West Bank, work to open the tomb of the Palestinian Authority's late president Yasser Arafat has started ahead of completely opening it on November 26th. The goal is to take samples of his remains in the presence of international experts who are investigating the cause of his death. Today, the work began to remove the layer of concrete and stones that surround Arafat's tomb, and the work will continue for almost 15 days. Arafat was buried in the city of Ramallah after he died in a French military hospital in 2004, but the cause of his death was not determined. 6 years have passed since the death of the late Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. However, Abu Ammar remains an essential figure in Palestinian society. Through people who are proud to resemble him and drawings of him on walls and streets, Arafat remains alive in the hearts of the Palestinians.
Among the lines of shoppers in the Ramallah fruits and vegetable market, there is a familiar face, but the real Yasser Arafat is in his grave. Salam Smirat is a look-alike of the late Palestinian president. He offers his services at weddings and birthday parties.
Everyone here, our entire people love Yasser Arafat.
Since his early years in the armed resistance, the real Arafat rarely stayed away from headlines. For many Israelis, he was a terrorist, and then he was an untrustworthy peace partner. As for the Palestinians, their memories are completely different. He was a person who tirelessly worked every day for their cause and embodied their struggle against the Israeli occupation. Much of Abu Ammar's archives are available at the Yasser Arafat Foundation in Ramallah. The president of the foundation believes Arafat is the father of the Palestinians, and he does like to engage in the allegations of corruption during Arafat's era.
You respect him. A
person loves his father and respects him, but if you recall everything he did throughout his life, you'll find some mistakes here and there.
Mistakes were done here or there.
There is no doubt that Yasser Arafat was a hero, a symbol and a person who unified the Palestinian cause for the majority of Palestinians. People here speak about him with genuine warmth, and not many criticize him, publicly at least. But there are a few who do. Some say Arafat was an old-school Arab leader, and they wonder how he would have reacted to the era of the Arab Spring.
Corruption, he's behind Yasser Arafat.
There was a lot of corruption in Yasser Arafat's era, and in some cases he was dictator-like in the way he managed the situation here in Palestine.
Perhaps Arafat's greatest legacy is his very powerful and influential personality. No one has been able to fill his place. For example, there are not a lot of pictures that glorify the current president, Mahmoud Abbas. Palestinians may have a look-alike of Arafat, but for many of them, the real Abu Ammar is irreplaceable.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible by grants from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Wincote Foundation, the Firedoll Foundation, and by support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news, read our blog, get transcripts of past shows, and more at linktv.org/mosaic. Airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories, world news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.